Hello, wrestling fans. Welcome to a new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. But not just a new episode, it is the first episode of 2022. I am your host, Lance Brack. Thank you for tuning in to this new episode of the new year, January 2nd. And I just want to start off by saying I've been thinking about maybe doing a special where I go through my picks for the best of 2021 and haven't decided just yet, so not 100% sure about that, not making any promises, but just in case, stay tuned for that in case I do. Right here to 360 Wrestling Podcast. Hopefully that might come soon. It might not, but like I said, just stay tuned. And on this new episode, the first 2002 episode, I'm going to talk about WWE Day 1 from last night. And got some breaking news last night around 6 p.m. that Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID, and the Universal Championship match, Reigns vs. Brock Lesnar, has been canceled, and Brock Lesnar was added to the WWE Championship 4-way match, making it a fatal 5-way. That being said, let's get on to WWE Day 1, the first ever Day 1. And first off, we start the kickoff. Sheamus and Ridge Holland in tag team action taking on Cesaro and Ricochet. And this one, in the beginning of the match, Ridge Holland suffers a broken nose, so Sheamus is left by himself 2-on-1, but still gets the victory in this one. Has Ricochet outside the ring and then pins Cesaro. And then, time for the main card. We kick things off with the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The New Day versus the Usos. I thought this was a great match here to start off the show. And then, to finish these, Jimmy Uso pinned Kofi Kingston after the Usos do a 3D at 17 minutes 20 seconds. And Day 1 kicks off still SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos. And in the back, we see Kevin Patrick with WWE Champion Big E. Day 1 continues with Madcap Moss with Happy Corbin in his corner, taking on Drew McIntyre. And McIntyre gets the win with the Claymore, 9 minutes 42 seconds. And then a little later on, Drew McIntyre is running out of the off TV with a backstage attack by Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin. It has came out this morning now that he is dealing with a neck injury, I believe it said. Now it is time for the Raw World Tag Team Championships. The Street Profits taking on RK Bro, the Viper, Randy Orton, and Matt Riddle. Orton hits an RKO to score the win for RK Bro, 11 minutes 14 seconds. It was a decent match. I expected Orton and Riddle to retain. The next, we have The Miz versus Edge. And of course, we see during the match, Maurice get involved. And then we see Beth Phoenix make her way. And Edge gets the win, 20 minutes, 5 seconds. These two put on a pretty good match. A little long, I thought, but I've noticed all the matches, I think since the Universal Championship match was canceled, were made a little longer than they were probably originally meant to be. The Raw Women's Championship is now on the line. Liv Morgan taking on Becky Lynch, and I thought these two worked a really well match. And it is Becky Lynch retaining in this one. I think the finish, there was a little mistake at the end. It was supposed to be Becky Lynch getting the win, this time with her foot on the bottom rope, but they were just a little too far away and she couldn't quite reach the rope, and the commentators even brought it out or mentioned it, brought it up, and still Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch, but good performance by Liv Morgan in this one, I thought. It is now time for the new main event of the evening for the WWE Championship Fatal 5-Way. Big E defending against Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar. A match that originally was going to be Big E versus Seth Rollins, then turned into a triple threat when they added Kevin Owens, and then a fatal 4-way adding Bobby Lashley, and now with the Roman Reigns news being pulled from the match, the Universal title match I should say, they added Brock Lesnar. It is now a fatal 5-way. This one was just like most Brock Lesnar matches, pretty short, 8 minutes 17 seconds. It went by really fast though in this one, really fast paced, hard hitting. Is Brock Lesnar hitting the F5 on Big E to get the win, to become once again the new WWE champion, unfortunately. And I didn't think the match was really bad, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't really a big fan of Brock Lesnar being added to the WWE Championship match and then winning the title in it. I don't know what the original plan was. Who knows whether they were going to have Big E retain or if they were going to take the title off of Big E anyway and put it on one of the other three superstars in the match. There's no way to tell really. But now Brock Lesnar, WWE champion. Now I notice there's already speculation online of when Roman Reigns does come back, having a title versus title match at WrestleMania. That could be a possibility, but we'll just have to wait and see. You never know. So that was WWE Day 1. I thought it was a good show. I wouldn't say great, but thought the women's matches were good. I really enjoyed the New Day and the Usos, as always. When those two teams are in there, they always put on a great match. And so it was a good show. Nothing bad at all about it. And then next weekend, coming up, we have AEW Battle of the Belts and Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill. And before we wrap up here, I want to say 2021 had quite a bit, compared to the last few years, had quite a bit episodes. And now, like other podcasts, that wouldn't be considered a lot of episodes, but like I said, like what I've done the last few years or so, this was quite a bit, but I hope to have more episodes, do more often, more frequently this year, 2022, for 360 Wrestling Podcast. like I said, I might be doing a special, like, where I go through my picks for the best matches, best wrestlers, things like that of 2021. So stay tuned just in case I decide to. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic for 2022. Remember, you can like 360 Wrestling Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, listen to right here on Spreaker, or you can listen to Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, I already said that, Apple Podcasts, I meant to say, Podcast Addict, and anywhere else you can listen to podcasts. You can find 360 Wrestling Podcast. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, and I hope to bring back Watch With Me. If there's a match or anything you want me to watch, to do a Watch With Me, you can suggest that. Or, like, might be doing episodes of Unleashed soon. Might bring that back. And maybe more off Thursdays with the co-host Madison Brody, as long as they don't act too silly on the show. And if you can, you support 360 Wrestling Podcast. It doesn't have to be very much, and you don't have to at all, but it would help very much. Help support 360 Wrestling Podcast, make us bigger and better. So thank you once again for tuning in to 360 Wrestling Podcast, 360 Wrestling Fanatic, the first new episode of 2022, episode 275. Hope everybody enjoyed it and keeps enjoying 360. Until the next episode, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.